Okay. We'll now be dealing with, we're still in the same series, did Christ break the law? All right. We dealt with a few parts already. The first part was dealing with the woman caught in adultery. The second part was dealing with the leprosy. This evening, we are going to be dealing with the issue of blood and the hem of the one with the issue of blood / some people call it, she touched the hem of his garment. All right. So like always, we're going to start at the same spots. All right. Because it's good to make sure we keep reiterating the same thing just in case we forget. All right. So we're going to start at Matthew chapter 5. Right. Matthew chapter 5. And we're going to jump down to verse 17. Matthew chapter 5. We're going to go to verse 17. So Matthew 5:17 says, Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. All right. So his job was coming to fulfill, not to start destroying things that were written beforehand. Okay. Now we're going to go to the other spot, 1 Peter chapter 2. All right. I'm doing this because even if something seems a little off, some things like, oh man, how it reads, it might seem this. Even if you start thinking like that, you already have scriptures to already let you know that's not the case. All right. So we're going to create the boundaries already. They're already in the scriptures. All right. So 1 Peter chapter 2. Did I get chapter 2? Yes. Chapter 2. Once again, we're going to go to 21 and 22. For even here unto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example of what? That ye should follow his steps. Very important, beloved. They want you to follow everybody's steps, but the one that the scriptures were designated for us to follow, and that is Christ's steps. Verse 22, because it's a continuation, right? Continuing the thought. Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. Okay, so he did not sin. If you talk about following Christ's steps, which you have to follow, Peter also saying what? He did not sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. So, beloved, we shouldn't be sinning, neither should guile be found in our mouth. Okay, this is why we're dealing with it, and we're going through these scriptures to break it down, because we don't want to be a teacher of saying that Christ did something that he didn't do. Okay, and people don't realize that when they're talking about some of these things, but that's what they're doing. Have Christ is breaking these laws and doing this. That would be against the scriptures if he's coming around doing that. Okay. He did not break the law, per se. All right. So let's go to Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9. Okay. We said this part is going to be dealing with the issue of blood. And probably if I had to guess, the most famous ones is probably this one. When I'm hearing that Christ broke the law, usually the woman caught in adultery, and this one is a huge one as well. Okay, like I said, it's not really that much I need to bring out about it, but nonetheless, I'm going to still cover it. All right, so we're going to go to Matthew chapter 9, and we're going to jump down to verse 20 to the point. I don't want to get that far. Okay. I'm going to start at verse 18. I'm going to start at Matthew chapter 9, and we're going to go to verse 18, beloved. So we look at that. It says, while he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, my daughter is even now dead, but come and lay your hand upon her, and she may live. I'm sorry, I'm making my words. My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. Okay. Now, verse 19. And Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. Verse 20. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be made whole. All right. Verse 22. But Jesus turned to him about, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith had made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. I'm just gonna go to a little bit. That's the part we're focusing on, but let me read a little more. And Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise. He said unto them, give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. So he's going on this route to check on this dead daughter, right? And while he's doing that, traveling there, this is where he gets touched by this woman who has an issue of blood. Okay, I want to see that just so we can make another point with this. All right, so he hears this news. He's going and traveling to this daughter that had this that died. Okay, and on that route, the woman touched him that had the issue of blood. Okay, let's go to the next account. Let's go to Mark chapter 5. Let's go to Mark chapter 5. And y'all got questions or something, y'all can go and put your hand up, unmute, whatever, put it in the chat. Okay. I know we're recording, but it's for you. The class is for y'all on here. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5, and we're going to start at verse 22. All right. Mark chapter 5. I'm in Matthew, so that's not going to help us. Mark chapter 5, and we're going to start at verse 22. Verse 20. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did marvel. And when Jesus was passed over again by ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh unto the sea. All right. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus, I believe his name is, by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet. Verse 23, and besought him greatly, saying, my little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. And when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and saying, thou, who touched me? And he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of the plague. And while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue house certain which said, thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, be not afraid, only believe. All right. So now that we got two accounts, we get a little more clarity. All right. So once again, this one tells you, all right, he got to the other side of the sea. When we start off, he gets off. Then he hears of this person coming and saying, listen, my daughter's at the brink of death, right? And he follows them, just like in Matthew, Mark, they coincided, right? They're going to this person's house, and on the way, somebody touched his garment, okay? And really the big thing about this, beloved, is people believe that if you are unclean, because she's unclean, there's an issue of blood, she's unclean. People take that and say that means somebody's in sin. And that's not the case. All right. It's a very clear distinction, okay, of sin and unclean. When you're unclean, if you do something further, yeah, that could turn into sin, but being unclean of itself is not sin. Okay. And we'll go to law and you're going to see why it's very important. And people don't understand what they're saying when they do that. Okay. So she was unclean. Excuse me. All right. And she had this issue for 12 years. Okay. So she's having an issue for 12 years. This is not normal. Okay. And the Mark, it kind of go into detail of how severe this was. She was going to physicians, all that. They could not do nothing with her. And of course, we know that was for the glory of God, that she went to all these spots to be a testimony. Like, listen, we don't know. There's nothing that we could do on our end that can stop this. Now, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. So she heard of Christ, hearing about, he's causing a ruckus. People are getting healed from all kind of sickness and elements that a lot of normal people can't even do. All right. So she hear about this and saying, listen, if I could just touch his garment, touch him, I can be healed. So that was faith that she was having. Okay. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. So she touched him, and then she felt something like, wow, something got healed. Do I know exactly what that feeling is? I can't say it, but she knew within herself, I don't have this plague of this, this issue of blood right now. All right. And Jesus immediately, knowing in him that the virtue had gone out, so he felt virtue go out of him, right? And he said, somebody touched me. The disciples like, what do you mean somebody touched you? It's like going to a concert. You're walking through a concert, everybody's touching you. How do you mean that somebody touched you? They weren't getting it, right? Because he's like, no, somebody, they done got, the spiritual attention, okay? It's not just somebody wrestling, somebody touched me like that. Somebody was reaching out, trying to get some virtue, okay? Get some healing. So they keep going. And this is a key part, verse 33. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. So she was fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her. That thing shook her like, I actually got this plague is done. I feel it. And when that happened, she came and fell down. What? Start testifying. Start telling what happened, right? And then after he said, look, daughter, thy faith had made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of the plague, right? But like I said, we're going to go to the Luke account. There's another account, but that's where they say Christ was breaking the law because he got touched by an unclean person. And I don't even know the rest of how they go with it. I know, but that's one of the big things. He got touched by this woman that was unclean, and I guess that made him in sin from being touched by her. I don't know what they're trying to grab from it, but that's one of the big things that people will use as an example. All right. So Luke chapter 8. Let's go to Luke chapter 8. I mean, if somebody knows clearly what they use for that, I just haven't dealt with this in a while, certain aspects with this one. But the last thing I heard it was that because she was unclean and she touched him, and so that makes him in violation of law, because I believe a lot of people, like I said, don't understand that unclean don't mean you're in sin. Okay. That's why I say, if you want to be a teacher and everything, we have a duty to read and investigate, because you can make a big problem. And I'm going to, like I said, when we get to the law, I'm going to show you what's the big problem about saying that. Okay. All right. This is the Luke account. Let me see. Okay. I'm going to start from verse 39. This is Luke 8, and we're going to start from verse 39. All right. So this is the third account. Return to thy house and show how great things God hath done unto thee. And he went his way and published throughout the whole city how great things Jesus had done unto him. And it came to pass that when Jesus was, returned, the people gladly received him, for they were all waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue, and he fell down at Jesus' feet and besought him that he would come into his house. For he had only one daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay a dying. But as he went, the people thronged him. And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment. And immediately her issue of blood stretched. All right, so she got healed. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When all denied, Peter and they that went with him said, "Master, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and sayest thou, who touched me?" In verse 46, and Jesus said, "Somebody have touched me, for I perceive that the virtue is gone out of me." And when the woman saw that she was not hid, all right, she came trembling and falling down before him. And she declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said unto her, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace." While he yet spake, there cometh one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying unto him, "Thy daughter is dead. Trouble not the master." But when Jesus heard it, he answered him, saying, "Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." All right. So once again, she touched him, and he's looking, who's touching me and everything. And then she goes and tell why she touched him, and he just basically let her go in peace, saying, "All right, be a good comfort. Your faith made you whole." Like he tells a lot of people, your faith made you whole. All right. And then he goes into the girl that died house. He goes into after that. Okay. So that is the story of it. Okay. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 15. All right. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15. And let's look at the law behind it. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15, and let's look at the law behind it. All right. Won't read the entire thing. This is basically it for today. Ain't too much need to go to after this. So Leviticus chapter 15. Okay. And I'm going to start from verse 1. Leviticus chapter 15, and I'm going to start from verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, so this is the Lord saying this to Moses. He's not making this up. He has nothing to do with the rules. He's just what? He's getting this from the Lord. Verse 2, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when any man have a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue, he is unclean. We'll get to the woman. Right now, this is specific. So if a man have a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue, he is unclean. He is unclean because of this issue. Okay. Verse 3, and this shall be his uncleanness in his issue. All right. Whether his flesh run with his issue or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is his uncleanness. All right. We have to keep these things in mind, beloved. Verse 4, every bed wherein he lieth that have the issue is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And he that sitteth on anything whereof he sat, that have the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until even. I'm going to stop there, beloved, because there's some key things that we have to know. All right. So this is dealing with a man. He has an issue. All right. A issue in his flesh. All right. We're dealing with his blood. He is referred to as unclean. And we're going to get to what is it talking about when we're saying unclean, because people have no idea sometimes what that's talking about. And that's okay. This is why we need to take our time. All right. So this person that's unclean. everything he's touching is now becoming unclean. He lays on the bed. Now the bed is considered unclean. Okay. And so much, beloved, we're going to get to verse 5. All right. Because verse 5 is important. Whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and shall be unclean till the even. What's different from the initial person that has it being unclean and a person that touches something of the unclean person? How long are they unclean, beloved?
Just until the evening.
Just until the even, right? This is the point. You're just unclean until the even, right? Did Christ have the issue of blood in the story, beloved? No.
No.
Right? But he what? Technically, he what? He got touched by somebody that had the issue. By best, according to the law, what does that make him, beloved?
Unclean until the evening.
Unclean until the even. They want to make Christ a full-fledged sinner because he got touched by somebody that's unclean. All right? That is not the case. You're unclean until the even. You just have to make sure you wash yourself. Okay? That's it. So it's a difference. She was in a permanent state of uncleanness because she has to get that issue kind of stopped. But if you touch somebody, they become unclean until the even, but they have to wash themselves. Okay? All right. That was verse 6. Okay, let me read 7. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that have an issue, he that toucheth the flesh of him that have the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. So if you touch something, if they touch like the clothes of yours and everything, that's unclean. You still have to wash yourself. And if they touch the flesh, you actually touch that individual. You're only unclean until the even. Okay. Verse 8. And if he that have an issue spit upon him that is clean, so somebody got an issue of blood, and they spit on you, right? Then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until when? The even. Verse 9. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that have the issue shall be unclean. Okay, so somebody use your saddle, they unclean, they sit on it, it's unclean. And whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. Okay, so I want to make those points to emphasize that you are just unclean until the even. You just have to make sure you wash your clothes and wash yourself. Okay, and you're good. Pretty simple there. That was verse 10. All right, let's jump down. Matter of fact, no, let me get. Let's jump down to verse 13. I'm going first. Let's start at 13. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go to 11, then I'll just skip it. 11, real quick. And whosoever he toucheth that have the issue and have not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. All right, another example. 13. Now we gotta listen. And when he have an issue, is cleansed of his issue. And when he that have an issue, this is not talking about a person touch. This is the person that actually has this issue. And when he that have an issue is clean of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing. One of those God number things, complete, right? 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in running water and shall be clean. So what they will do, they get clean. They still got 7 days, right? In case that thing, it might have went off and then came back in a couple of days. So you want to make sure, right? So 7 days, you're going to then, make sure you clean yourself and everything, and they shall be clean. Now you're clean. But listen, Verse 14, because that's not it. According to the law, on the 8th day, he shall take to him 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation and give them unto the priest. And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his issue. Okay. So when we're dealing with cleanliness, okay, I don't know if y'all even caught it there, right? When they're calling them unclean, why are they calling people unclean? All right. They got the issue, they call unclean, but why they're unclean for what? I'm trying to say it without giving the answer. What do you think they unclean from? It kind of gave the answer if you caught it from that 13 and 14. Actually trying to show us something. And this is connected to leprosy and stuff like that. Put these things all together. All right. It's you're unclean for a certain thing, beloved. I'm going to read 13 again. And when he have an issue, is clean of his issue. Then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing. So the cleansing process is 7 days. And wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in running water and shall be clean. Now they're clean. This is very important. You have to do this, then you're clean. Now, the next day after you're clean, look what you could do. And on the 8th day, he shall take to him 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord unto the door of the tabernacle congregation and give them unto the priest. So they were unclean to do ceremonial practices like coming and offering up the sacrifice. And when we read, we see those kind of things. When a woman, right, she has a male child or a female child, there's a certain amount of time, right? It's called that purification time, right? And then after that, what happens? You have to bring the offering. Look at even Mary, right? Mary did what? She had that time because there's a certain time for the male child. And then she had to bring what? I believe it said the 2 turtle doves. I believe that's correct. Let me look. I don't want to mislead. Sorry, I'm going a little off script, so I don't have it ready. I think that's in Luke. Okay, Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. And you're going to jump down to verse 22. Luke chapter 2 and verse 22. All right, Luke chapter 2, and we'll go verse 21. And when the 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Jesus, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. Verse 22. And when the days of her purification, according to the law of Moses, were accomplished, were complete, were done, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. People have no idea what that's talking about. Because when you bring them to that temple, that is presenting yourself to the Lord. You're like, oh, it's just a building. No, it had very strong symbolism. Okay. So you're bringing them to present him to the Lord. This is when you're bringing them after the purification thing. Now you're clean. Now you come before the Lord, not in the filthiness. All right. Not in the uncleanness. You get cleansed. Then you go. All right. Verse 23. As is written in the law of the Lord, the law not of Moses, in the law of the Lord, every male that openeth the womb shall be called holy to the Lord. and to offer a sacrifice according to that which is in the law of the Lord, a pair of 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. All right. So we see that even being illustrated in the New Testament. Okay. All right. Let's go back to Leviticus. That was a side note. Leviticus chapter 15. And, oh man, where we leave off at? Okay, 13. 13 foot. Okay. The water says. All right. So you got to clean themselves, shall be clean. And then on the 8th day, the next day after they're pronounced clean, right? Now they can do ceremonial practices. Now they can come to the temple and everything, right? On the 8th day, he shall take on to him 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord. All right. Yes, the Lord is present everywhere. We're not arguing that point, but you have to understand some biblical principles to understand what's going. Even in the New Testament, they say they brought it up to the Lord. So that's why that temple was very important. Okay. Besides a lot of other reasons. All right. Unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest. All right. So you have to be clean to go to do that. Verse 15. Let me make sure I want to go through all this. Yeah, we can kind of look. All right, let's go to 15 and we'll jump down. And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his issue. All right. So you're still getting cleared, all right, by the priest. People think, oh, we have to worry about the priest those days. You just no, there's laws. You couldn't just go and say, I'm clean, I'm good. You still had to do the other aspects of the law. Okay. And this goes with also, it talks about a man's seed. So when his seed, right, sperm go out, that's a part you'd be unclean, but that's only until the even again. Okay. All right. Let's jump down to verse 19 and we will start there. All right. Verse 19. And if a woman have an issue, all right, now we're with it. It says woman. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, issue with the woman, the issue of blood, okay? She shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until what? The even. Unclean until the even. All right. So if, even though she touched Christ, whatever, he will only be unclean until the even, not in sin until even. He shall be unclean until the even. Okay. Verse 20. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sit upon shall be unclean. All right. And whosoever shall touch her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. Okay. We don't have to keep getting some of those parts. Let me go down a little bit. Let's jump to, let me get 24 again. I'm 24. And if a man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon her, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. So, beloved, this is why I say you're going to mess a lot of people up. When a woman's on her monthly cycle, she will be unclean. But how people want to put Christ, they want to make them break the law so bad, they put it as unclean, meaning you're in sin. So that if that means that, that's fine. Let's go with that doctrine. That means women, y'all are in sin 7 days every month for the most part. All right. And a lot of them don't say, what a minute. No, you have to be in sin. But I have no control of that. But you're in sin because that's what people are putting. Okay. So this is why we want to make sure we take our time. So if you lay with her and you get blood on you, right, her flower come upon her. Sometimes I know people track and everything, but sometimes it's 100% sure. So you sleep with her, the flower be upon her. He said, what? Now you should be unclean 7 days. All right. And all the bed wherein he lieth shall be unclean. So the blood actually got on something. So now you got the blood on you. So now he's saying, no, you got 7 days now. Okay. They say, no, just touch. This is now blood. Okay. So you should be clean 7 days. Okay. Verse 25. And if a woman have an issue of blood, of her blood, many days out of the time of her separation, whether that's the during the period cycle, or if what? Maybe she's pregnant, right? Because that's a separation thing too. That time, I don't know, right? Anything, right? So beyond the normal time or the scope or whatever, out of time of separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation. So now if it runs longer, maybe the period was 7 days, now it's getting to another day, 8 days, it's 9 days or whatever, okay? All the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as in the days of her separation, she shall be unclean, all right? So she is now, if that blood is there the next day, okay, she's unclean the 8th day. The blood is there the 9th day, she's unclean the 9th day. If it's the 10th day, and so on. So this woman, they're putting 14 years, meaning she's been unclean for 14 years. This issue has not stopped for 14 years, okay? Of course, that's not a somewhat of a common thing that happens, but could happen. So she's still, according to law, she's unclean, all right? Verse, am I 26? All right, yeah, 26. Every bed whereon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. Whosoever touches those things shall be unclean and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and shall be unclean till the evening. So we see the same thing about the 7 days and being cleansed. But if she be cleansed of her issue, now if she do get cleansed of her issue, all right, now there's a law dealing with that. Then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. Because I know some people are like, well, why didn't Christ tell her to go and go to the priest and everything, right? Why can't she go to the priest right away, beloved? Why can't she go and offer the sacrifice right away? Because the law tell her not to. Now, if Christ saying you cleanse everything, now you go right now and go and offer that offering, that would be something that we can talk about. But he didn't say nothing. What he said, go in peace, be of good comfort. Still got to wait. Never said run and do the sacrifice right there, because that would be something different. He just told her, go down in peace. You know, you got healed. Your faith made you whole. But if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days. She got 7 days to chill, to make sure this wasn't no, I want to say half miracle, work for 2 days and it came back. She wait 7 days. All right. So the story don't go into fully of it. But Christ didn't do nothing wrong with it. And after that, she shall be clean. 29. And on the 8th day, she shall take of her 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the same thing with the man for the sin offering and for the issue of our uncleanness. Okay. So I'm going to go to verse 31 because it does get something a little extra. Let me see. Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. I hope we catch that part, beloved. Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness. Listen, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. So this is why when you're on these uncleanness, you get what? Separated. You can't be going to the tabernacle and just doing this. Well, I'm going to do the sacrifice. You're unclean. I don't want you to die in that. Stay going it. You got to separate. The Most High put this in order, okay? Because he was trying to show us something. Verse 32. This is the law of him that have an issue, and of him who see goeth from him, and is defiled therewith. Nothing defiled, okay? Defiled don't mean you're just in sin. Don't just, you have to investigate it, right? When it's eating with unwashed hands, what the Pharisee was saying, they're eating with defiled because they eat with unwashed hands. They weren't in sin because they're eating with unwashed hands. But he talking about defiled, they're unclean. Okay, they were saying that, not the scriptures. They were saying that. All right. And of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that have an issue, of the man and of the woman, and of him that lieth with her that is unclean. So this law is dealing with this. That's dealing strictly with what we dealt with today. Okay. So this is what Christ was doing. okay, and it was guarding. You can't go there and everything. It's dealing with the temple. You're unclean to approach it, all right? That's it. Didn't say the sister was in sin, and he put everybody else in sin. Because remember, she most likely touched another member. It's crowded. She make a lot of people unclean. I'm not saying the best thing she should have did, but that don't put everybody in sin. That'd be kind of crazy, Now I got, somebody got an issue of blood and they playing tag and cooties and touch me, and now, damn, I know I try to do the law best I can, but now I'm in sin because somebody touched me. Come on now, the God we serve a lot more practical than that, beloved. Okay. So no, he was just unclean. The other point, let me see. I want to make sure I go to the, we did it with one of the other passages when we went back. It might be, I think it's still in Leviticus. Let me see. Was it one chapter back? Let me go up that camp. Let me see what's going to be going on. I don't know if anybody caught where this happened at. But that's also a key part as well. Which I look for, it says when they defile with a dead body. We read it in one of the other ones, so I just want to see if I can find it again. Okay, look at this chapter 13. Grab to one that's dealing with leprosy, just so we can see it again. So remember when we were dealing with the leprosy, we kind of gave the same point. Okay, so remember leprosy, this is one, once again, somebody unclean, they supposed to go out the camp, okay? They can't be near the temple. That's what he's trying to bring out. You shouldn't be near the congregation of the temple. This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall go forth out of the camp, and the priest shall look and behold if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper. What's the key part? The priest goes out the camp. It's not happening in the camp. Go out the camp and inspect if they're clean. Then once they're checked off as clean, now they can go and do what the Most High told them with the, for him that is clean, 2 birds alive and clean, it goes to the aspect. Now you can go to the temple and get it, go before the Lord to present the offering to be clean and atone or whatever. All right. But once again, they will be without the camp. Okay. So it says, I think one of them actually, I just can't remember exactly what it's saying, but it talks about if they be unclean. Matter of fact, numbers. Let me look at numbers. Into the Deuteronomy chapters, numbers. Sorry, y'all. That messed me up. Numbers 5 and 2. That's the one. Numbers chapter 5. Numbers chapter 5, I'm gonna read verse 1, start verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper, the people with leprosy, and everyone that have an issue, and whosoever is defiled by the dead. Why is this important, beloved? Because they all have to be outside the camp when they're having these things, okay? Remember, Christ is already about to show up to what? A dead body after, so he never got touched. He's about to get unclean anyway because he's about to go to a place where they are dead. And remember, she wasn't when he first told them, but remember when they got to the location, they said, why bother the master now? The child is dead. That will defile him going in there and doing these things, okay? But they were not at the temple doing these things, being unclean and doing this. They were outside of the camp. Why I'm saying that is, let me see. Let's go to Matthew. I think it's Matthew 9. I mean, hopefully the point is already made, that it's just not, it don't make you in sin. Now, if he goes in there, he's unclean, and now he goes to the temple and try to offer something, now we can say, yeah, now he's in violation of it. But it don't give no record that he did that. All right. 9:1 is Matthew 9:1. I'm going right back to the part we started, right? And he entered to the ship and passed over and came into his own city. So this is showing kind of where he is dealing with location-wise. All right. Came to his own city. We can go to Matthew chapter 5. Just showing you he's not in Jerusalem. Okay. Matthew 5. Not Matthew. Is it Matthew 5 and 12? Let me see. No, I think it's Mark. I think it might be Mark 5. So he's not even in Jerusalem when this is happening. Let me make sure. Let's see what I want. Matthew 4. That's Matthew 4. I'm sorry. Just showing you his own spot. People probably this. I mean, sometimes you got to look this far just so you can show individuals. All right. And this is just, I'm just going to location. Now, when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali. So this is, a lot of them have it as, this is Nazareth near Capernaum, near the, what I say, the Sea of Galilee. All right. So this is kind of location he's at. Let me find a map that I did put on the side so we can see kind of respectively. All right. They'll refer to this as like northern Israel. I think some people have it. So when you look at this, you see Judea, Jerusalem, you see that Bethlehem, that's all down there. And you see what? Remember, he was up in what? Galilee. He went back to his own spot. So Galilee, Capernaum, the Sea of Galilee, that's up here. All right. So Jerusalem's way down here. And most likely he's in somewhere of this area. Okay. So he's outside the camp. This is why people outside the camp, that's where they go. You got it. All right, you go outside the camp. You got it. Leprosy. Okay, go outside the camp. So there's already dealing with unclean people out there. So it's not a real issue, right? So it's not a big thing. Oh, that's where they are. They're outside the camp. Now, when you try to come in the camp, you got to make sure you're a certain way. This is why the priests don't be trying to deal out there with people that can possibly go into that. They'll stay within the camp because that's where you stay clean and everything. All right. And once they get clean, they'll come in there. They'll go out there to investigate and stuff and see and inspect. But then afterwards, what? You got to clean, come in, and then you can do those kind of things. All right. This is even with, Passover and everything. It talks about you can't just come and do that sacrifice. He's been showing us. You have to be clean. The idea is what? That we be clean before we come to the Most High. We don't give him anything. We don't try to offer up when we are unclean. This is why if you understand Christ saying what? If you got to offer with your brother, don't come up and offer. He says what? Go back and get it straight with your brother. So what? Because that affects the offering that you give to him. All right. So this is some deeper things, but he was showing us already through the law. One more thing. All right. We're going to go to Malachi chapter 4 and verse 2. All right. So I'm going to get this first. Let me go to the account. I'm going to go to a different I'm going to look at a word because there's even a deeper meaning in this. Okay. There's a little deeper thing in this. Let me check it the right one. Let's go to we'll go to the Matthew account. I'm gonna go to blue there so we can because you're not going to see it on that one. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go with another law. I'm gonna show you another law, and that will be Numbers 15. I'm just going to show you a correlation real quick. All right. So Numbers 15, and we're going to jump down to verse 37. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, that they put on them the fringe of the borders, a ribbon of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them. And that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, which ye go about a whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your God. All right. So there's different discrepancies of how it looked and all that stuff. Not getting into that. But at the end of their garment, they will have something, a fringe. And when they, this will be at the border of their garment. Okay. This is a fringe. It will be blue, and it would be a reminder, right? It doesn't keep you out of sin. No, it don't. But it's a reminder, you know, that you don't go about a whoring, seeking after other things, but that you do the commandments and be holy unto God. All right. So sort of an outward thing. Okay. So when you go to Matthew 9, all right, understand that Christ, right, doing the law. And it says, and behold, a woman which was diseased with the issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. Okay. So we put that together, the hem of his garment. Let's look at the hem. Okay. So this is the blue letter, right? So I'll just give you little things. The border, the hem, right? The thing, the edge, the skirt, the margin, the fringe of a garment, right? So they're connecting the two, all right? So this would be primarily where the fringe at, all right? So if she grabbed the hem, grabbed the fringes of it. Now I'm going to take you, keep those things in mind. Now we're going to go to Micah, all right? So we will have the hem, the fringe in the garment. She grabbed the garment, all right? She grabbed where the fringe will be, all right? Why is this something powerful? Well, a message that can come from this, all right? So let's go to Malachi chapter 4. Malachi chapter 4. All right. And I'm just going to go to verse 2. I'm going to go right to the point. But unto you that fear my name, all right, to you that fear my name, shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. And ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. So the Son of Righteousness, right? We attribute that to Christ. Arise with healing in his wings. So it was even prophesied that he was going to be healing, and it's going to happen. It says it's going to be in his wings. One thing that you can grab from this, beloved, and this is just something to look at. Don't want to go all crazy with nobody. All right. If we look at that word wing in the Hebrew, not the English, all right, healing in his wings, right? The wing, the extremity, the edge, the wing, the border, the corner, the shirt, wing, extremity, or the skirt, corner of garment. So some people look at it as naturally, she was actually even fulfilling something about it, right? So her by touching it, it's not always just straightforward. They had to touch the hem. No, we know he was healing all over the place. But another aspect to look at is what? He's literally having healing in his wings. All right. And the wings is, if you look at a bird, the wings is the extremity that's further out, you know, looking at the skirt. So with that same thing, you can see the premise of the beauty of the word, right? Literally having healing in his wings. And she just believed it. Right. So you could say she even believing what the scripture said. Even I don't know if she knew this exact scripture, but she had faith. You know, this is the Messiah, this is the one. So he's healing and doing these things, and she's even fulfilling, but even I don't know if she knew it or not, but spiritually, that thing gravitate to it. All right. And grabbing that and being healed. Okay. Because it's in his wing. He didn't even say nothing. He's walking the crowd and she grabbed that. So it wasn't even something that he had to touch or do. She got healing from just touching the wing or the hem of the garment. All right. Beloved, I am going to end it there. All right. That's pretty much it with the issue of blood and the hem of the garment. Once again, we don't have Christ violating anything. All right. If anybody have anything, you can bring it out. Okay. Let me close this.